Hello, and a very good morning to you all. Before we begin, I would like to start with a sincere apology for the delay in the start. One of our lead network providers decided that this would be a good time to, disconnect the internet and get things rolling. So we had to recover from that, and that took us quite a bit of time, but nonetheless, we are back and we are in action. So before we get started today, I would like to do a quick audio check, make sure you guys, I'm audible to you guys. If you could go ahead and drop in your comments to let me know if I'm audible, that'd be great. Gokul says yes. Gokul, thank you so much. And Jaspreet says yes as well. Thank you. Thank you, you guys. Thank you for sticking around. And okay, a few other gentlemen have said yes. Thank you, guys. Thank you again. And before we start again, sincerely apologize for the delay today with the beginning of the webinar. All right, so today what we'll be doing is talking a little bit about how we can make IT more effective or more efficient with password sync and single sign-on. That's available with ADSelfService Plus. And in the process, we'd be doing a few other things. Let's jump on to the agenda. There it is. So for the uninitiated, ADSelfService Plus not only offers single sign-on and password sync solutions. What it does is it's a web application available for you to use, with which users can, it's an end user tool basically, which helps them reset their password and log their account and update that information. Apart from the basic functionality of ADSelfService Plus, it also offers synchronized password options and single sign-on options and a lot more, which we will be checking out in detail. So without wasting any more time, let me take you right there where all the action is. This is, gentlemen, again, ADSelfService Plus. This is what we'll be working with. I've gone in, logged in as admin. Everything looks good. Let's get you started. All right. So right off the bat, the first thing that we would be starting off with is password sync. We would be checking out how you can use ADSelfService Plus to set up password sync between your Active Directory and your cloud applications like Office 365 or Salesforce or many other applications of choice that are available. So right off the bat, what you do is click on configuration right at the top there. And to your left, under self-service, you should see a password sync single sign-on option, which is right where we want to be. And once you click on there, this is split actually into two, password sync apps and single sign-on apps. Before we begin, I just want to take you on a quick tour of the apps. So I've selected password sync now. These are the applications that you can have password sync with. So these are the applications that you can set up password syncs with. As you can see right off the bat, there are a few major applications there: Google Apps, Oracle, eBusiness Suite, Office 365, Zoho, Postgres, SQL, or if you use Microsoft SQL Server, that, ServiceNow, a few big names there. And if you flip on and look at the single sign-on options, there are a bunch available there as well. 110 apps that you can work single sign-on with, to be exact. Now, let me give you a view of the apps. Like the other options that you saw here as well, you have about 110 applications that you can work with, including Google, Office 365 again, Zoho. The list, guys, is exhaustive. There is 110 applications right there, like I said. Now, if you do not find the applications that you use here, I mean, that you guys use in your office here, there's no need to panic. Right here is a button which says add new custom application. What that does is it gives you the ability to add in a custom application. The only requirement that we want from you is to ensure that the application that you guys are trying to add in here is SAML 2.0 compatible. That is the only requirement that we have. And if that is the case, then you can go ahead and get that application added. So without any more delay, let's go ahead and work on the password sync option that we're going to be working with. So today, for password sync, we have chosen Office 365. As far as password sync goes, the configuration is painfully simple. This is the module. Let me show you a new module. So this is the module. Like you can do password sync or single sign-on with Office 365. Today, we'll be using Office 365 for password sync. So the first thing you want to do is select password sync right there. And when you do, it is going to ask you for a bunch of simple details like your Office 365 domain name, give it a display name here, and an admin account here, and a password for that admin account. All right, I'm told that we are facing internet issues again. So Gokul and Jasprit, you guys who talked to me before, if you can quickly confirm that I'm audible and the screen is visible, that'd be great. All right, Gokul says yes. All right, fantastic, you guys. Thank you again. I just want to be sure that I'm audible again and there's no issues here. Jasprit, thank you so much. Gokul, thank you again. Quickly jumping back into the configuration. Right. So password sync, as I was saying, it's a very simple module to add in and get activated and get going. So the other module. So right here with password sync, I have set one up. What I've done is I've put in my display name, put in my domain name there, put in a display name, give it a username that it can work with, and the policy I want for this to be applicable for. Now, I want to talk to you a little bit about the policies right here. What policies are is basically you letting know ADSelfService Plus who will have this privilege. As in, when you create a new policy, the first one of choose reset password, unlock account, self-update, and change password. So this is these are the privileges that you can give users when they use ADSelfService Plus. And right after that, you can choose who you're giving this privilege to. As in, this is my entire domain. This is my entire domain tree that you see here. This is the actual replication of Active Directory. And here I can choose and decide who gets this access and who doesn't, right? So when you choose, as a matter of fact, you can just go ahead and say the entire domain, which means everybody in ADSelfService Plus will have access to this application and use ADSelfService Plus. On the other hand, if you just want to restrict it to a bunch of users, you can just select the OU or that group the particular user is in and go ahead with the process. So that's what that policy is that you saw right there. Taking you back to the configuration. Right. So again, coming back to the configuration, just a few basic details like the domain name, give it a display name to identify it with, give it a username and password, a brief description and the policy, and choose which policy this will be applicable to. If you want it for everybody, just say all the policies, or if you just want it to be applicable for one of the policies or a couple, just select the one that you want. And once you have that, all you have to do is hit update and you're done. It is as simple as that. Now, when you've done this, let me show you how this is going to work out for an end user. I want to show you how an end user looks at it and how this works out for an end user. So Let's say I am that user and I go in and log into ADSelfService Plus. Now this is the domain user login where regular domain users log in from. So username, password, and go. All right. So one of the things you should know is when you've configured single sign-on or password sync for your users, one of the first things that would happen is they would get an additional tab uh, named Applications. And in Applications, whatever application that you've configured for them is going to reflect. So as you can see here, I have configured password sync with Office 365. And there is also Google Apps configured for single sign-on, which is showing right here. Now, I'm going to show you how the user can test this out, or you can test it out. So what we're doing right now is password reset. It is right here. I click on forgot your password. It is going to ask me for a bunch of details, which I'm going to give it. For example, I put in the username, hit continue. All right. Now it's asking me to validate my identity to know that it is really who I say I am. And I have a couple of ways to prove my identity. I can either answer a few questions that I've set up during registration, or I can have a verification code sent to my email address right here. I'm going to choose to go with the question. So I'm going to answer these questions. Hopefully I don't mess up there. All right. So as soon as I cleared the authentication process of clearing up my identity, it is going to take me to this reset page where it's going to display my default domain password policy just to clear up, just to be clear of what the requirements are here or what is expected of me when setting up a password. And right here under selected accounts, if I click on the drop down box, it is going to give me the accounts that are associated with my Active Directory account. As you can see, the first one is the basic Active Directory account right there. And the second one is my Office 365 account that is associated with that account. So all of it looks good. All I have to do is go in and put my password. So I'm going to choose a new password right now. And as soon as I've done that, hit reset password. It is going to take a second to process that and set this password across to my Active Directory and Office 365 account. And on the next page, it is going to let me know if that process was successful. All right, there we go. We have the results. So it tells me that my login or my password reset for Active Directory was successful. And on the same page, the Office 365 password sync went okay as well. And if there are any problems at this point, it is going to be reflected here. So there you go, guys. That is how you set up password sync, make life easier for you and the users in your organization. Now, as far as password sync goes, any questions here? Just want to let you know, guys, if you have any questions at any point in time, please feel free to use the chat box and keep your questions coming. Or if you have questions later or at the end of the session or after, I will drop in my email address to which you can keep your questions coming too. Thank you very much. So that configuration wise and testing wise, that's how you go on and get password sync established and checked out. Now, right off the bat, the next thing I want to show you guys is single sign-on. Now, I want to do this a little differently. I'm going to show you how single sign-on works. I'm just going to quickly check what application I've configured. All right. All right. So imagine this. You have your Active Directory username, password. You have tons of other applications that you use on a daily basis. Now imagine the hassle of getting the password for each of these applications right? You have your computer password. You have the tools that you use on a regular basis. You have tons of other things to remember and set up. Now imagine if you can just log into ADSelfService Plus right there. Okay, so I got the password right and it's logged me right in. Now, just to catch you up, this is the self-update page. This is where all the self-update happens from. If a user wanted to, update their address or their phone number or their mobile phone number, anything at all, this is where they would go to get that information updated. Right next to that is the change password page. If the user would like to change password, this is where that happens. And this is the enrollment page where the user would enroll themselves on their first login, or later if they want to change around the security question and answers. And finally, this is the tab that we talked about, the application tab. What that means is if you have configured single sign-on or password sync for your users will see this tab come up for them. And once they go in there, whatever is configured for them is going to show. All right. So imagine this: the user logs into ADSelfService Plus and they want to log into Google, which they use. They go straight in, click on that, and it is going to ask them for the username just to validate everything is okay. And imagine the convenience of just hitting next and getting logged in. This is a brand new account, so that has not happened here. Let me go back and help you or show you how the configuration for that works out. All right, so I'm getting logged in. The process is pretty much the same. I would go into configuration. Once I've gone into configuration, I'll click on password sync or single sign-on right there. And from here, I will choose the applications that I want to look at. This time, we'll be looking at single sign-on apps. There we are. And then Google. All right, so now you have two instances right here. I'll click on there. And with Google as well, with G Suite, you do have the option to set up single sign-on or password sync for that matter. And since we already, cleared out password sync, we'll be working with single sign-on on this module. All right, so the process is pretty much the same. You choose single sign-on right there. And then when you have, it is going to ask you for the domain name that you put in right here and which policy you want it to be applicable to. Once you've chosen those details, you hit update. And once you have hit update, this one thing we would do differently. As far as G Suite is concerned, setup happens in two places. One end of the setup happens here in ADSelfService Plus, and the other half happens in G Suite. And for that, I'm going to have to be logged in as the admin. So I'd go to the admin console of G Suite, log in there. All right. So once I have, it's going to take a bit of spinning to get me there. All right, there we are. So once I've logged into G Suite, I'm gonna be looking at an option that says security. Right there. Right. So you click on security, and once you have, a single sign-on option would be right under here, which is right there, right? So click on single sign-on, and once that has loaded up, there you go. So these are your single sign-on configuration. Now, let me get you back to ADSelfService Plus. Right. Now, once you have configured this bit in ADSelfService Plus, your ADSelfService Plus part of the configuration is over, is good, right? Now, the next part of it is in G Suite. And for that, you're going to need two things, right? You click on Update. Once you have, you get back in there, and then you click on, you see where it says Download SSO Certificate right here. And there's this option that says SAML right under there. You click on that, and you're going to need two things. One is the single sign-on certificate, which you will download. Go. First thing you want to do is download the certificate, which you have, and then there are these options here. Let's copy them. Go back to the admin console and paste them here. So sign-in page is the login URL. Logout URL is the sign out page, which you have right there. And then you have the change password URL, which you copy, and then you go ahead and you paste it here. Once you've done that, it is going to ask you for the certificate. But what you want to do is save this configuration and come back and upload the URL, or the certificate rather. So save the URLs, and then I'm coming back, going into the same option, single sign-on, and then under there, see where it says replace certificate, click on there, choose file, and then choose a file or the SSO certificate that you've downloaded, hit open and hit upload. All right, looks like your certificate is uploaded and the links are the same. All looks good here. I'll refresh the page and then I'll confirm that everything is okay before I go out of this page. All right, single sign on, and the links look good, so does the certificate. All right, so with that, the Google part of the setup is done as well. I will get out of here, close the page, back to ADSelfService Plus, sign out of here, and it is time to test. All right, so the user that we have set up for this test is Jimmy, and I'll type the password in for Jimmy. Signed in, application. As you can see, single sign-on is already configured for Jimmy. All you have to do is click on the link, verify the username, which says correct, and hit next. Now, as you can see, it has redirected to Google, which is exactly the way that this would happen in your concern. This is not opened up because this is a freshly created account. It has probably not had a chance to, be created, but you see the process. This is the process that happens. Now, you can ask me what if the user directly goes into Google? Great question, right? I'm going to do exactly that, show you how this works out. So I've gone to Google directly, put in the username, Jimmy at evergrowingtech.com. Brilliant. And I say next. Now, as we have set up single sign-on, you will see that the page is automatically redirected to ADSelfService Plus, where all the user has to do is put in his username and password that he uses to log into the computer or the network. And when I've done that, it will automatically redirect me to Google. As you can see, it has redirected me to Google. This, of course, is not the right page. This is coming up because this account has not been configured. I'm just using this for demonstration purposes, but you get the idea. So setting up single sign-on makes life much easier, much easier, trust me. Now imagine the convenience of adding all the applications that you use on a regular basis into ADSelfService Plus. So all then the user has to do is just get in there and click on the application that they want to log into with a single click. With that, they do not have to remember tons of passwords that come with different applications. It is just one username and one password for them. In the process, simplifying and making applications work for them instead of the other way around. So with that, that wraps up single sign-on that we had. Any questions, you guys? Now remember, like I said, you can anytime you have a question, you can use the chat box to keep them coming. Or if you have questions later, I will be sharing my email with you, so you can ask these questions as and when they come up. All right, great. So with that, moving on. Now this takes us to the next part of our workshop, which is to implement granular password policies with advanced options. So you can stop leak passwords, set up patterns for both your on-prem and your cloud applications. Now imagine this. How many of you here know their password policy, their default password policy for your Active Directory account, right? I'm guessing a fair bit of you guys know what you're working with in terms of your default domain password policy, right? Now, what if I ask you the password policy for each applications that you guys use in your organization? With that, we have a quick question. This is coming in from Jaspreet. Jaspreet says, what about if we have some business applications and dashboards? How to replicate single sign-on in that case? Now, Jaspreet, what you could do is these applications, these business applications that you use, the only requirement that that we would require to get them in here is that they are SAML 2.0 compatible. So if these applications, do you know if these applications are SAML 2.0 that you're working with? I'm giving Jaspreet a quick chance to answer that question. Okay, so Jaspreet here says it is actually handled by a different team. No problem, Jaspreet. Don't worry about it. I'll leave my email with you, and we can talk about this later. But to answer your question, how that would work out is you want to go back to these teams that are working with the application. Ask them if these applications are SAML 2.0 compatible, or if they use SAML 2.0. And if they do, then there is a very good chance of we getting those apps right in here. So you choose, you see where it says new custom app. These are for the applications that are not on the list. So the first thing you want to do, Jaspreet, is see if the application that you use is in these 110 applications. Now, if that is the case, then the job is even easier. All you have to do is, let's say, for example, ADP is one of the applications that you use, right? So go on to ADP. It is pre-configured into ADSelfService Plus. So it is just going to ask you for a bunch of details. You give in those details and hit save. And when you do, after you've done that, it is like any other applications. When the user logs in, it will be configured for them under the application tab. All they have to do is go on and click that tab, and the application will open up. Now, in the case that it is not in the list, then you will gonna have to add it custom. Now, there is help module available right here on the top. You see where it says help. There is this module available which you can use, which will give you step-by-step instructions of adding an application right into there as custom. And if not, you can reach out to us and we can set up a remote session and go ahead and here. What would happen is you're going to get a tab right here. Just like everything else you see here, your application is also going to be listed. All you have to do is just click on the application and you'll be good to go for single sign-on. I hope I answered that question for you, Jaspreet. If you do have questions, please keep them coming and we'll answer them for you. All right. With that, moving on to the next part of our workshop, right? So what we're talking about is loads of applications that you work with and the password policies that come with them. Right now, you have your Active Directory. Since you work with your Active Directory more often, you will have an idea of what your password policy is, what you're working with. Now, imagine a scenario where you have Active Directory, you're using ADSelfService Plus, you have all the apps to this application. What happens to the password policy then? So which policies does it take? Which is the safe option? Which is the better one? Uh, Understandably, all these applications have different password policy and you don't get to choose which one you go with. But in ADSelfService Plus, you do. Yes, you heard me right, you do. Let me tell you how that works out. So we have this feature that is called the password policy enforcer, right? What this is in simple terms, this is a feature that sets a global password policy, right? Let me explain what I mean by that statement. Now, you have your Active Directory that comes in with the default password policy, right? Now, when you enable the password policy enforcer, what happens is this password policy enforcer has a bunch of options that you can choose with, which will help you make your passwords stronger. For example, in Active Directory, you do not have tons of options that you have here. For example, let me show you these two options in particular, which is one of the best that we work with. You will see why. Now, the first option I'm going to talk about is disallow the use of dictionary words. What that means is when you enable this option comes in with a default dictionary built in to AD Self-Service Plus. So what that does is when enabled, it will not let users choose words for passwords that is part of the dictionary. So any words that's part of the dictionary, it is not going to let the user use them for a password. Now, here's how you can make this better, right? You can go to tons of websites there, which will give you blocked passwords or weak passwords, passwords that have been hacked, things like that. You can download them make a text file out of it, and you can upload that text file here into default dictionary. So what that would mean is your users cannot set a password that has been blocked, that has been leaked, or that has been hacked before. So it gives you the ability to set up a stronger password right from the start. Why let a user set up a weak password or a password that can be hacked easily and then go after fixing that when you have a choice of getting your users to set up a strong password to start with, right? Now, there's this other option that I want to talk to you about, which is disallow the use of patterns. What happens is when you set up this option, you have the ability to stop your users from setting up patterns like QWERTY, QWERTY, ASDF 1, 2, 3, 4, or in many cases that I've seen, people use the name of the organization that they work for in their password. For example, if you work for Zoho, you put in Zoho in your passwords, or you choose really common passwords like password or password at 123 or anything for that matter, anything that you don't want your users to use as a password. Gentlemen, just put those words in here, make a list of it, put that in here, and we will make sure that these words that you put in here are not used as passwords by your users. Now, apart from that option, you have tons of other options that you can use. You can set up a minimum password length. If you think the minimum password length should be at least 8 characters. If your default password policy is set up at 6, let's say you set this password policy or a minimum password length here at 8, you can allow or disallow palindrome passwords. You can make sure your user's password contain both upper and lowercase letter. There are tons of options here. Please read through them. Uh, And once you've chosen what you want and you set them up, we'll make sure that there is never again a weak password set in your organization. So those are the options you have. Let me show you how this works. So how that usually works is, now you might ask me, does the user have to come into ADSelfService Plus to set up this password? Not exactly. Now we have an option where we can make sure that this password policy, this global password policy that you set up is enforced throughout your organization. By that, what I mean is it is obviously enforced when they use ADSelfService Plus. I can even go ahead and set it up so that it works across the GINA. I will get to GINA in a second, or the ADUC. Right from here, when I set up the password policy or the password policy enforcer, I can ensure that even from here, you as an administrator cannot set up a weak password. I'll show that to you in action. So I've decided not to use dictionary words, and I've set up patterns, as you can see. Let me just put in a few quick words there to show this to you. All right, looks all done, and save. Right. Now, we do have a client agent called Gina. If you haven't checked it out, you should. I'll show you what exactly Gina is and how Gina works out. Right. Now, Gina is the agent which comes up on your login screen. Let me show you the agent. I think you'll be really impressed if you haven't seen this before. All right. So what I mean by Gina is this link right here. Usually on your computer, you will not see this link. You see where it says reset password and unlock account. This is Gina. And when you click on it, it gives you the ability to unlock your account or reset your password right from the login screen. So here, so let's imagine you're coming back from a long weekend, like the one that we had this week, and you do not, like every other user, you do not remember your password, or you typed in your password multiple times and got yourself locked out. Now, you do not have to find another computer, log into ADSelfService Plus and get your password reset. You can do it from your own computer without bothering the help desk or anybody else. All you have to do is click on the application, choose what you have to do, reset or unlock the account. I'm going to go with reset. I am going to say my username, let's see, say Mike. On the next screen, it is going to ask me to validate myself, which I will. Hit continue. And when I do that, it is going to show me the accounts that are associated with the Active Directory account, and it is asking me to set up a new password. Now, what I wanted to show you here is instead of the default shows me what is expected of me when I'm setting a password, but as I type in the password, it is going to tell me if my passwords match all the criteria. There, I've typed in, it is as I type, and I'm not sure if you noticed that, but as I type in the password, it is going to check all these options as I meet them. Right, that is done. Then at the bottom, I type in my captcha just to keep the bots out, and I say reset password. Now, when I do that, bingo, there you go. Now it says I am using a restricted word or a dictionary word, that is password. Now, gentlemen, like I told you, when I enable the dictionary option, it gives you the ability to pick and choose words from the dictionary and lets you not have them as password. So anytime someone decides to pick and choose pick or choose a word from the dictionary or from the patterns that you set up and set up a password, it is going to say, no, you cannot use this for your password. Now, let me get back in there and show you what happens when this is done right here from the ADUC. Okay, so I am putting in a word, dictionary word to be exact. There you go. You will see that it is not letting me set up that word as a password. So anything that's in the dictionary or in the patterns list that you have put in here cannot be used as password, not even by you, not even here. Now, just to clear that off, let me remove that, save it. Then now you'll see that I'm able to set that word as a password. There you go. As soon as I turned off that restriction, I was able to set that password and get it to work. Now, here's another thing I want to show you. The Gina we talked about, remember? What if, what's the most common way you change your password? You lock your screen and go change password, right? Let's do that as well. All right, I've enabled the restriction, and now I'm going to do Control-Alt-Delete and try and change my password, see how that goes, right? All right, changing a password. There you go. Now, as you can see, it's not only giving me the option to change a password, but it is giving me the entire list of requirements that I'm supposed to meet to set up a new password. And if I don't meet them, it is going to let me know. I'll show you that as well. Go to new password. Now, as you're not sure if you notice this, but as I type these words in, it is checking off each requirement that I've met, right? All right, that is done. Okay. Now, if I say next, there you go. It says your password has been rejected. Now, usually it brings on a default message that says we cannot set up your password. And you sit there wondering why wasn't I not able to set that password? But now with ADSelfService Plus, with Gina and the password sync agent installed, you know why. It is exactly going to tell you what you missed out, what the problem was, and why it was not able to set that password that you just typed in. Now, here is the best part. This not only applies to your Active Directory account, but every other account that is associated with it. Let's say, for example, you set up password sync with Office 365 or Google. You can make sure that you set up a healthy password and all these requirements are met for each of these applications. So that is where the global password policy comes in. You have just one password policy. You can set up this custom password policy, the password policy enforcer, to make sure that you're satisfied with your current requirement in terms of security, and make sure that that password policy applies across the board. No questions asked. Any application that is associated, this password policy applies to them. So you have the relief and the ease of setting up one password policy and making it work across all the applications and Active Directory that you use. All right, gentlemen, I think that brings us to the end of the show. So if you guys have any questions, now would be the time. Please go ahead, ask me all those questions that you have saved up, and I'll be more than happy to answer them for you. Come on, you guys. Any questions at all? And by the way, that's my email address. It's srijit@manageengine.com. If you have any questions now or later, please feel free to email me, and I'll be more than happy to help you set it up. And just let you know, if you ever find out from your dev team or whatever team that handles the other applications, do drop in a line to that email, and we'll set up a call and get the single sign-on rolling for you. Yeah. Jaspreet says that password solution is brilliant. Thank you, Jaspreet. We are proud of it, and we hopefully get together and get that established across your organization. Of course, you can have it in test mode, and definitely solve the help desk problem, Jaspreet says. Yes, Jaspreet, we have seen multiple organizations that have come into us, embraced our solution, and they see up to 80 or 90% of reduction in the help desk calls that they get. So yeah, that the solution definitely works. Do check it out, and I'm sure you love it. And if you have or if you face any problems while setting it up, Srijit is here, and so is the help desk team for AD. Oh, thank you. Actually, guys, I just wanted to say thank you again um, to Gokul, to Jaspreet, and the rest of the team that have been with us on this webinar. Guys, thank you so much. Thank you for sticking around. I know that we were supposed to start a bit earlier today, and there was a delay, and you guys stuck around. Thank you so much for that. We really are honored, and thank you for that. So with that, there is a feedback after the webinar ends. Please do take it. Let us know what are the applications that we can work on during the next session. Let us know how this one went, and if there are any feedbacks, anything at all that you'd like